Well, I think the roof has just been blown off Buckingham Palace and Clarence House and Kensington Palace. I mean, the courtiers that are watching this will be spinning. You know, if you and I had a conversation a few hours ago, I'd have said to you, I think the palace will essentially ignore this and it'll be business as usual. That's gone out of the window. That cannot be, they cannot ignore what's just happened. I mean, from, well, on so many levels, the family has now been accused of racism. Somebody very close to Harry has been named and shamed as a racist. The mental health policy within the royal household has been brought into question in a major way. The lack of support for family members on a security level has been brought front and center. I just think there are, if these accusations were leveled against a business, it would have to be investigated. And this is one of the biggest businesses, one of the biggest brands in the world. I mean, it is, the palace have, I just don't see how they cannot respond to this. They're going to have to. I just don't understand what they thought this was going to achieve. Why? I mean, why do you need to do this? Because what good is going to come of it? Is it going to make them feel better? In the long term, I think probably not, because what's about to flow out from this is, using the Live from Another film, I think they've unleashed hell. This is, who did this interview help? Apart from, Harpo Productions and the various broadcasters around the world. I mean, who has this helped? People in the UK will be steaming angry. I mean, on a very basic level, and this is another revelation, I haven't even talked about this, the wedding, the British taxpayer paid £35 million to stage, wasn't the wedding, wasn't the marriage. They were married 2 or 3 days before, did she say? So as a nation, we were duped as to what that wedding was. I wouldn't have minded if, and I'm sure the nation wouldn't have minded if we'd been told the truth, but seriously? So from that moment on, there's been a sort of another story running. So I think the nation will feel duped on that level, but I think also the nation will just be shocked that a couple who were embraced, as they admitted, by Britain, by the family, and I think most British people would feel were treated well, and I appreciate there are probably a number of stories that were awful for them, but the reaction to them was incredibly positive from the average member of the British public. And I just think your average man or woman on the street will be shocked that they have been so vitriolic about their own family. Make no mistake, I'm sure Harry was listening in the wings. Harry would hear what was being said. I'm sure they both will have viewed that program. Everyone will have been very aware of what was being said. And as much as nothing was off limits, I'm sure there was a lot of conversation about what the direction of the conversation will be. I think it was absolutely designed so that Meghan could, and I don't know if this is the right phrase, but I think for Meghan to land as many blows as possible. And believe you me, she landed a lot of blows on the royal family tonight. Straight away, when Meghan said Kate made her cry, I mean, bang, the gloves were off. And then away we go. We run from Kate made me cry to the family is racist, and the discussions of how dark the baby's going to be, what shade of brown the baby's going to be. Then we move from that pretty quickly into I was suicidal and nobody in the family would help me. Then we're into bullying. Then Harry's into my father wasn't taking my calls. They cut me off. I have no money. They've taken away my security. I mean, where do you want me to stop? It just kept coming. I think the other thing that will be a frustration for the British public is, you know, particularly in this last year, it's been incredibly tough for everybody around the world. People have lost their jobs. People haven't worked for years. There was nearly a year in some cases. You know, people have lost family members. And I think the British public will find it difficult to look at a couple who are living in a £14 million house just on the beach, in California, and that have whatever it may be, $100 million deal with Netflix, another massive deal with Spotify, and before that, by the way, lived in literally in palaces, and I think a lot of people will say, you think you had it tough? Try living our lives. There are people who can't put food on the table. Well, you're either in the American camp, and Meghan is great and lovely, and the British, the British nation is a racist nation, or you're in Britain, and I think the majority of people in Britain are going, this is just crazy.